let's talk about the teams that you're high on. I think I just picked up when you were saying the Patriots are a team that you're not as high on as others might be. Did I hear you say you're high on the Dolphins? You like them?
I am.
Why?
The Dolphins are a hot-button team because I know they got a new head coach in Mike McDaniel, but the quarterback I want to start with is Tua, obviously, because Tua is a massive hot-button player this season.
Mm-hmm.
And in my opinion, so many people have the wrong perception of what Tua is. Tua is a player who, his first season, he comes off a catastrophic hip injury. He is rehabbing during the COVID offseason where he can't get into the facility. His offensive coordinator is Chan Gailey, who was recently retired, is now coming back to the NFL after several years solely to call plays for Ryan Fitzpatrick, a quarterback he worked with in New York with the Jets previously. After the season, Chan comes out and says, I don't even know why we inserted Tua halfway through the season. The offense was designed for Ryan Fitzpatrick. We didn't do enough to change it for Tua. Then last offseason, he suffers, I think early in the season, he breaks his ribs, misses a couple of games, breaks his finger on his throwing hand, and has to sit out some practice time. He's playing with the wide receiving core that gets the least amount of separation of any receiving core in the NFL. He's playing behind one of the worst offensive lines and the NFL's worst run game over the last 2 years. What quarterback should we expect to have success in that situation in his first 2 years in the league? So I think he's gotten just a bad rap in general with what he's actually done. I think this season, when he finally has a better offensive line, a much stronger run game, and receivers that are going to be able to separate. You know, the 49ers, people don't realize this. Jimmy G, over the last 3 years, he's averaged the highest yards per attempt of any quarterback in the NFL. And it's not because he's chucking the ball down the field with an aggressive passing attack. It's because of all the yards after the catch that the 49ers offense has been able to generate year in and year out. They rank number one in the league for the last 4 seasons. So Mike McDaniel is going to bring elements of that, along with, of course, Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle. They're bringing elements of that to this offense to make life easier for Tua, so he doesn't have to throw into as many tight windows, and so he can throw to guys and get more yards after the catch. So I just think Tua is going to look better, and as a result, this team is going to look better than a lot of people expect.
All right, then who else are you high on then this year, Warren Sharp?
The Minnesota Vikings are another team. That's the kind of addition by subtraction. You know, Mike Zimmer, one of his core philosophies, in my opinion, was he wanted the team to run the ball a lot early. They were the number 4 most run-heavy team over the last 3 years because that chewed up the clock, kept his defense fresh on the sidelines, and he felt like his defense would look better if the team wasn't as aggressive offensively and if they were just trying to stay on the field a little bit more consistently. But the reality, Rich, is that a defense is going to look better when the opposing offense is more predictable. And the only way you're going to make that opposing offense more predictable is if you are a defense that is playing with a lead. And the only way to get a lead in the NFL is to be aggressive on offense yourself. Kirk Cousins' numbers, if you look at what he did in the second half of games or when the team is trailing, they're ridiculous. He is capable of being an efficient quarterback in this league. They just weren't letting him throw the ball enough on first down, on second down, early on in the games in the first quarter. And I expect the new coaching staff is going to be much more aggressive. Justin Jefferson is already saying how much this is a breath of fresh air with this new offense. Plus, their defense plays a much easier schedule of opposing quarterbacks. So I just think this defense is going to look better even without Mike Zimmer there. And then they get one extra home game. And no team in the league, Rich, over the last 10 years, since they built that stadium, has a better home field advantage, has a better win percentage versus expectation than do the Minnesota Vikings. And keep this in mind. In 2020, no crowd, right? No fans in the stands. So there was no crowd noise helping that home field advantage, and they were not really as good at home. Last season, NFC teams played an extra road game, right? 9 road games, only 8 home games. This year, NFC teams get an extra home game. So I really think it's going to be a big difference for the Minnesota Vikings. I don't know if they're going to unseat the Green Bay Packers, but I do see this team getting to the playoffs and exceeding expectations.
Okay, so the Vikings I just named them my number 1 sleeper team of 2022, so I guess we're lockstep on that. You got another team you're high on? You got one more?
I like the Ravens simply because I'm bigger than people on Lamar Jackson. A lot of people, Lamar Jackson can't throw. Lamar Jackson's not a good enough quarterback. And I've tried my best to debunk all of those theories. I was super big on him even before 2019 when he came in and took the league by storm. Every single year I've been really higher than market on Lamar Jackson. But I think people forget, this team was the number 1 seed for the AFC. With all the great AFC teams last year, they were the number 1 seed in early December. Once Lamar Jackson got hurt, he hurt his ankle, they didn't win a single other game from that point on. But they were the number 1 seed prior to when he hurt his ankle. And that was with this team having to make way wide-sweeping changes because they were one of the most run-heavy teams in the league for several years. They became like the 8th most pass-heavy team last season because they had no running backs. Every back got hurt before the season. He's been playing with one of the cheapest, least expensive wide receiving cores for years, almost ever since he got there. This year they have the 32nd cap hit for wide receivers. He's been getting it done without quality wide receivers, and last year without any running backs. I think, their backs aren't quite as healthy as I was hoping they would be at this point. I think they're going to have better team health. I think Lamar's going to have better protection from his offensive line. And I think this team has a solid defense this year. They built it up a little bit in the offseason, got a new defensive coordinator in there. I expect big things coming from the Ravens this year.